Warning, this video will contain gameplay spoilers for the Side Order DLC, but it will not contain any story spoilers. Hello my fellow nerds and welcome to my little review of Side Order. This is going to be more of a discussion based video. I'm really excited to get to do this. Gonna have some gameplay of some runs that I did last night in the background now that I've had some time to sleep on it, digest my thoughts about the DLC. I just wanted to talk about it for a little bit before I get into more specialized runs later in the next few weeks. So, let's get started. I'm going to go through the good and the bad. I called the bad the meh because there's not that much bad. Overall, I love this DLC. I think it's so much fun. It adds something completely new to whatever you can do in Splatoon 3. There's so much variety, and then this just comes along and adds another layer. I really like it. So, let's get started. Let's go with the good. So, I have for starters the palette. The palette is like the big overarching gameplay loop for the DLC. Essentially how the palette works is that it gives you a specific weapon, sub, and special, and then you get color chips that you can put into the palette to augment your weapon or various other things about your character. So, the palettes are really cool because they provide a ton of different unique kits, which make every single run in the tower a lot more unique. You can actually customize the sub and special for each of the weapons, and that's really nice because there's going to be some weapons where they're going to come with a certain kit and you're going to be like, well, this is good, but I think I would be benefited more if I added Curling Bomb to this, or Burst Bomb, or Splat Wall, that sort of thing. And you have the ability to change that, though it is slightly random, which I guess could be a downside to some people, but it's not completely necessary, you know? You don't have to have this sub and this special with this weapon to be able to beat it. Like, that's not a requirement. But it's nice to be able to customize that to your will, and the color chips are a ton of fun as well. A lot of variety in the ways you can build out your character. You can kind of pigeonhole yourself into one specific thing, like, oh, I really want to go for damage this run, or oh, I really want to work on my luck this run and my item drops. That's completely possible, and no matter which way you go, you will most likely be okay. Like, you can go all around and go a little bit of every color, or you can focus in on specific things because each palette has their own like increased chance to drop these these certain color chips. So you can kind of focus on those, or if you just want to go an all-around build, you'll be okay. I really like that idea a lot. I think it makes it a lot more fun. So next up, we get the stage types and objectives. Each objective can occur on different stages. So if you pick a Splat Zones objective, it won't always be on the same stage. If you pick one of the spinny propeller things, it won't always be on the same stage. So that provides yet another layer of variety, making each run even more interesting. There was one run that I had where I had two zones I had to contest, and to get to one zone was really easy. You would just use an incline and jump straight up to it. And another zone that I had, you had to use the incline, go to this big middle platform suspended in midair, and then hit another incline, like way off, and then jump into it. It was absolutely insane. So that made, that one specifically was really tough. But not because like the enemies were tough, but because I was trying to like manage my movement through the stage, and that was really cool. There's a lot of different types of stages and a lot of different types of objectives that make the gameplay a lot more interesting. You can choose certain objectives based off of their difficulty. So if you get a Splat Zones 1 and it's a rigorous difficulty, you'll probably have to take care of 2. You'll probably be moving a lot. Your enemies are going to be moving fast. And that just makes things, you know, interesting. So next up on the list, I have difficulty. Difficulty in the DLC will vary from player to player because, you know, at the end of the day, the goal is for you to eventually get up to the top, right? Whether you enable the hacks by spending pearls, or whether you just go in completely on your own with a weapon that you like, the goal is to eventually, you know, win. But you can make that as easy or as hard as you want. Like, you can, at some point in the game, you can disable any of the hacks that you've bought, so you can go in completely blind, essentially, like no extra help from outside. But going super hard on yourself is like, that you can do that on your own. That doesn't have to, like, you don't have to do that. If you want to win, you can make it as easy or as hard as you want. And I will also mention that going easy on the stages, every floor you go up to, if you see an easy option, you're like, man, I don't really want to deal with the hard stuff. Like, the reward is not going to be that much crazier for going for an even harder option. So you can afford to take the easy route a couple times and spend a couple floors going to the vending machine and skipping out and getting chips that way. The most important thing is that you are getting chips. It's not necessarily that you're going for the hardest route every single time. Also, the difficulty is hard enough that some weapons that you're going to get, maybe you'll get the roller and you're not very good with the roller, you've kind of got to build it out to benefit your own strengths. So I made it to where I could just spam the button and do a ton of damage, but some people are going to want to have it to where they want to stay far away and they want to do a vertical flick and get extra damage, which is completely possible with the way that the color chips work. So you can kind of build out each weapon to your own strength. So if you're really good with the dualies, alright, you can go for some funny stuff. If you're not, that's okay. You can build out dualies to have better dodge roll, or, you know, you could have higher swim speed and just get out of places and reorganize, make things easier on yourself that way. Next up, we have the customizability. I've already mentioned it a lot, so we'll go pretty quickly, but there is a lot of replayability in this DLC. You have different palettes, different weapons, different color chips, different kits, different ways you can expand upon things, different challenges, different bosses, all that stuff. So there's a lot to do with customizability and replayability. You won't get bored of this very quickly. Now, the music, which has been playing in the background for you, is really good. There's a new band called Free Association. I don't think they've done anything before. Maybe they did some of the Octo expansion stuff. But I love the style that they're going for. This really like techie, glitchy, matrixy style of music. It fits really well. Both the slower tracks and the faster tracks fit in really well to the gameplay loop. I really like them. And of course, Deadfish has a couple songs. The intro song that you heard was made by Deadfish, the person in the elevator, as you've seen in all the trailers. So that's really cool. And piggybacking off of the music, we have the aesthetic, which I really like. It's kind of this techie, minimalist, awesome looking, like, I don't know, it's almost like if Cyberpunk, you just drained all the color out of it, you know? And the enemies look really neat, and the black and white aesthetic works really well, and then the splashes of colors, instead of being like a relief, are more intimidating than anything. Like, oh, this thing's glitching out with a lot of random colors, I gotta be scared. So I think it plays really well into the opposite of what you would expect in Splatoon. Like, in Splatoon, color is great, you know, thumbs up. But in here, it's like, oh, I gotta be careful, that could hurt me, you know? I would also like to mention that the game runs surprisingly well. Even if you're swarmed with a ton of enemies, there were a few times where I experienced any lag spikes or frame drops, which is really good, because Salmon Run, I was expecting it to be something like Salmon Run, where the more enemies that showed up, the worse your Switch would run, until eventually you were not even making like 10 frames a second. But this is not the case. It runs extremely well on my Switch that came from April 2017, so it's very doable. And finally, to end off the good section, we have the rewards. The rewards are really, really cool. I won't go into them too much just in case you don't want to spoil yourself, but as the Twitter and some of the videos mentioned, you can get each of the weapons that you play with. I won't describe how you do that, but it's really cool. You get to unlock all the weapons, and for me specifically, like, I have to unlock all the weapons because, you know, the Road to Raw series, I have to get every single weapon to Raw, so that will encourage me to play more side order, which I'm really looking forward to because I love it already. Now we're gonna jump into some of the not so great stuff. This is more just nitpicky, nothing I'm really upset about per se, but we'll jump into it. So first of all, we have the enemy variety. You'll notice that most of the enemies you'll face will be the same throughout the entire thing, which is okay. And eventually, as you get through higher floors and higher difficulties, there will be a little bit of variety, but there's not going to be a ton. You know, you'll see the same enemies over and over. I think it's okay, because they cover most of like what an enemy could be. Like, there aren't like super specialized enemies or anything. Like, each of them are going to have their own unique way to take them out that will benefit some weapons and make it harder for other weapons, which is great, and I think that's exactly what it needs to be. I just noticed that I was running to a lot of the same enemies, and it could get slightly repetitive. Sometimes they're a little bit stronger, it makes it harder to take them out, but I enjoyed it more when there were a variety of different enemies. Made it a little bit harder to figure out my path instead of just, okay, let me hold down the ZR button. And going on top of that, the boss variety is not insane by any means. There are 3 bosses that you'll face throughout your time through the tower. 3 of like the middle stage bosses, and then you'll have the final boss, which I believe stays the same, but I've only beat 1 run. And the 3 bosses do a really good job at highlighting the strengths of certain weapons. One of them focuses on mobility, so making sure you can move around the map very easily. One of them focuses on crowd control, so if you have a lot of enemies on the map, that you are able to take that out. And then one of them focuses on verticality. Can you shoot upwards? Are you able to maneuver around things? I'm trying not to spoil too much because I still want you guys to go and enjoy it yourself, but the variety in the enemies isn't insane by any means, but that doesn't mean it's necessarily bad. It's just something that I thought was a little nitpick. And there you go. That's just some of my initial thoughts of Side Order. I'm looking forward to continue to play it. I plan on making some videos for the channel of like specific runs where I'm going for this certain loadout or that sort of thing. Making like the Pearl drone absolutely insane, or going only for luck-based chips if I can do it. Stuff like that I think would be a ton of fun. But that's a little bit later down the line. For now, I just wanted to get my thoughts out about Side Order. See what you guys think. Be sure to comment down below what you're feeling about it, or if you're like, I don't even know if I want it yet. Maybe this video changed your mind. I hope it did, because overall, I certainly recommend it. Like, it would be a 9 out of 10 for me. Everything just works super well. It's super fun. There's a lot of replayability. There's more than just one reason to jump in, you know. There's a ton of reasons. And so I hope I did a good job like explaining that. But thank you guys for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe so you're notified when my next video comes out. If you haven't already, be sure to check out my Road to Raw series. I'm very, very proud of it. It's still ongoing, and with even more weapons coming out next season, I don't see the series ending anytime soon. But yeah, be sure and check that out, and I'll see y'all in the next one.